Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 259 spoilers are here. Todo is back, which is something all of us were wondering about. However, a very important character dies in this chapter. I know that with Gege, no one is safe, but this character is one of my favorites, and their death really touched me. This chapter is an emotional roller coaster. On one side, we lose a great character, and on the other, we get the legendary duo of Yuji and Todo versus Sukuna. Anyways, sit back, relax, and let's start. First, a shout out to Miyamura for providing the spoilers. The chapter begins with Yuji, Chozo, and Kamo. Yuji asks Chozo to teach convergence, but Chozo isn't really a good teacher. Kamo clearly explains how blood manipulation and convergence works. Chozo says he can teach Yuji how to use the supernova attack, but Kamo rebukes Chozo's suggestion and says Yuji should learn blood manipulation only to know how to stop bleeding and suturing. Chozo gets sad and pouts for not being able to teach Yuji. Yuji also reveals that the second person he swapped with is Yuta Okotsu. So I guess he switched with Yuta to learn reverse cursor technique, because I don't of another thing that he can learn from him other than that. Anyway, on the next panel, the narrator explains that only by going through the cooking process of both dismantle and cleave will the door to Kamino opens. It lacks the speed relative to its fire and has an effect range. To resolve these issues, Sukuna imposed a binding vow upon himself. Urahum says, "It's our win," as the narrator continues to explain that Kamino's heat results in decompression and overpressure, leading to the death of living beings inside the domain. This is Ryomen Sukuna's ultimate technique that slaughtered Maharaga in one strike. The narrator also explains that during Gojo's fight, Sukuna had to repeatedly change the specifications of his domain, narrowing its effective range, due to which Sukuna deemed it insufficient to unleash Kamino. Thus, Sukuna had to seal it during his fight with Gojo. So, this explains exactly how Sukuna's flames work, and the entire black box theory is completely debunked. Personally, I was one of the believers, and after seeing the theory of Sukuna's twin come true, I was hoping for the black box theory to also be true, but that's not the case. However, I think that we'll need to see the official translation to better understand this technique, because here it's described as a domain expansion, which is something I didn't expect. Now, back to the fight. Before the flames could hit Yuji, Chozo sacrifices himself and makes a barrier of blood around him to protect Yuji inside. Chozo slowly dies as he says, "I'm sorry for being useless during our training," and we get an emotional discussion between Yuji and Chozo as Chozo is protecting Yuji from the flames. Next, we transition into a scene where Chozo and Yuji are in their imaginary soul world. Chozo compliments Yuji for learning reverse cursor technique faster than him. Yuji says it's due to Sukuna using his body that he achieves it, but Chozo says it's okay. Little brothers are meant to surpass their older brothers. Yuji scolds Chozo and says, "You just can't disappear." Chozo, right, I need to apologize to Tsukumo too. Chozo, Yuji, I'm sorry I'm leaving you alone again. Yuji, you were always by my side when times were the toughest. That's more than enough. And we get another discussion between Chozo, Eso, and Kechizuso. Now, I'm very sad and irritated about the death of Chozo. In fact, I really don't want to write the script for this video. On one side, this is brilliant writing from Gege. As George R.R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones, says, a great author is one who keeps the reader on the edge. They never know whether their favorite character lives or dies on the next page. Even Gege mentions that he doesn't care about which character he needs to kill as long as it makes the story interesting. Chozo's death was handled perfectly, and it fits the narrative and the protective nature of Chozo. However, Gege Akutami, I hate you. Chozo is one of my favorite characters. I really love the development that he went through. At the start, he was an antagonist who wanted to avenge the death of his brothers. After figuring out that Yuji is also his brother, he changed and redeemed himself. He was Yuji's protector after the Shibuya incident. Chozo is the main reason they were able to find Tengen in the first place. After that, he protected Tengen and fought Kenjaku. He was extremely helpful during the fight against Sukuna. It's sad to say goodbye to Chozo, but it's good writing by Gege. Anyway, back to the present, Chozo departs with final words. "Thank you, Yuji, for becoming my brother." Yuji says goodbye to Chozo as he finally says, "Thank you, Aniki, big brother." As everything crumbles down, Yuji helplessly asks, "Guys, someone." The narrator says that Yuji convinced himself he was a normal character. No matter what happened, he was meant to fulfill his role. But as the scorched earth's heat began to push his way, it shook the foundation of his resolve, the resolve to repay his brother who had sacrificed his life to protect him. Yuji hopelessly sees Sukuna coming towards him, but Yuji and Todo once again arrives at the battlefield to help his brother. Next, we go to a flashback. Todo and Mei plan on how to rescue people trapped inside Sukuna's domain. By using Mei's crow and Todo's boogie woogie, they can get people outside. Since Sukuna's domain instantly kills, Todo can't guarantee their lives, but it's good to try. Mei says since Todo will be outside Sukuna's domain, he has to expand his curse technique's range by a lot. So she asks if he can really do it with those arms. Todo says he's not really sure of succeeding, but he says he can feel the heartbeat of Boogie Woogie. But Todo says they can't let Yuji know of this plan. Yuji and Sukuna were two souls in one body. Even though it's in the past, that connection itself is strong. So there's a possibility of their plan unknowingly being spilled to Sukuna. And this, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense. If this was true, why would Sukuna be surprised by Yuji's growth and new techniques in the first place? Sukuna also asked Yuji and Yuta how they get so strong in just 1 month, to which Yuji responded through hard work, and Yuta said, "We cheated." Why didn't they hide their entire plan from Yuji, not just this part? I think Gege intentionally writes parts of the story this way, just to create discussion points between the readers, which is a good thing. Anyway, the narrator says even Todo was uncertain of his allies' safety and couldn't manage to move Chozo and Yuji outside because both of them were right at the center of the domain. He couldn't explain all this to Yuji. So Todo tries to encourage him by saying, "I'm sorry, brother, but the other sorcerers probably alright." Yuji tries to rebuild his resolve by thinking other sorcerers are probably alright, and he has to believe in Todo for now. Yuji and Todo rush towards Sukuna as the narrator reveals that Sukuna is now in a state where it's difficult to use his curse technique after the domain expansion. Editor's comment at the end, "The path to victory linked by the brothers." I'm extremely excited to see our legendary duo fight against Sukuna. We've been wondering and theorizing why Todo didn't appear yet. I mean, we didn't even see him in any of the previous flashbacks, and finally, he is here, and I'm sure that we'll see one of the best fight sequences ever. I can't wait to see it animated. However, from the narrator's comment and knowing Gege, I think that Yuji and Todo will take a lot of damage from Sukuna in the next chapter. Furthermore, I'm still very sad about the death of Chozo, a character who went from a villain to the most loved hero. He went from trying to kill Yuji to sacrificing his life for him. One of the best character developments ever, so I really appreciate Gege the genius way that handled Chozo's character. But again, Gege Akutami, I hate you.